This morning we are in Psalm 82. Psalm 82 starts off as an indictment, but an indictment by who and against who? Verse 1, it says, God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment amongst the gods. So this is a courtroom case, and God is the judge, and he is looking out over the defendant. And the defendant is the gods. In the NIV, it's gods with quotes around it. So gods that aren't really gods or lesser gods. And so it seems like God is judging the other gods of maybe societies around them. But as you look through the text, you actually see that that word gods is sort of just a use of a term which is probably indicative of other kings and rulers of the ancient world. In verse 2, God indicts them and says this: how long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Now that doesn't really seem to fit. If God is talking to these other gods, these pagan gods, and telling them to, well, you instead of defending evil and letting evil reign, you should be lifting up the poor and the needy and the weak. That doesn't seem like something that God would say. It seems like to another god, right? For God to allow these other gods to exist, and they're supposed to act like he is supposed to act. But that's probably not the case. That the gods here is actually referring to other ancient rulers and kings. That these kings in the ancient world were sort of looked upon as the representation of God or the gods to their culture around them. So that when people looked at the king, that they were meant to see the God of that place. And they were meant to display the character of that God in their country. And so these kings, whoever is being indicted, it's unclear which king is being talked about. I think it's just rulers in general. These people that this writer looks around and they're seeing all these different rulers or leaders who are supposed to represent what God is like, to establish his justice, to lead by the example that he set. They're not. They're doing the opposite. And they need to be reminded of who God is and what it means to live for him. And so the challenge is there, that if you are a person who's a leader, your call is to look and act like our God does. That when people look at you, they are meant to see what God is like. And if you don't look like that, you aren't living according to the standard that God has set, you're in trouble. You need to get your act together. Because in verse 6 it says, I said, you are gods, you are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. So if you're a person that, like these ancient kings and rulers, that you claim to be someone that is supposed to model what God is like, and you're doing the opposite, you're living the opposite way, get your act together. Because our God is the judge on high. He's watching your and my actions and words and responses. And one day we're all going to sit, like these rulers, in front of the judgment seat and have to give an account for how we lived our life. Were you someone that lived and looked like who God has designed you to be, or the opposite? That's our challenge.